You taught the child to be a man whose life my freedom won. Yours was the shoulder that he rested on. You held my Savior in your arms. Saint Joseph, pray for me that I may live.
This is our last installment in the series on Saint Joseph because we wanted to bring it to a close before Holy Week. There's still so much left to reflect on in Pope Francis's letter with a father's heart. So today I'm going to be really focused on just one part of his reflections. Before I do that, however, I'd like to mention that the Holy Father included a reflection on Saint Joseph as a working father. I didn't want to completely pass over this section because due to the pandemic, we're living in a time when employment issues are impacting many people's lives. Let us implore Saint Joseph the worker, he writes, to help us find ways to express our firm conviction that no young person, no person at all, no family should be without work. Now I'd like to spend the rest of our time together reflecting on the last designation the Pope discusses in his letter, Saint Joseph as a father in the shadows. He presents a beautiful ideal of fatherhood, and I would suggest it applies to motherhood as well, exemplified by Saint Joseph, two aspects of which I'd like to highlight. The first is Saint Joseph's traditional designation as a most chaste father. I think that many people today probably associate the word chaste with vowed religious or chastity programs encouraging young people to put off sex until after marriage. But whether married or single, whether lay or consecrated, as Christians, we're all called to love chastely. But what does that mean? The Holy Father wrote that calling Saint Joseph the most chaste father is not simply a sign of affection, but the summation of an attitude that is the opposite of possessiveness. I'd like to quote him here. Chastity is freedom from possessiveness in every sphere of one's life. Only when love is chaste is it truly love. A possessive love ultimately becomes dangerous. It imprisons, constricts, and makes for misery. God himself loved humanity with a chaste love. He left us free even to go astray and set ourselves against him. The logic of love is always the logic of freedom, and Joseph knew how to love with extraordinary freedom. He never made himself the center of things. He did not think of himself, but focused instead on the lives of Mary and Jesus. This is the first quality I'd like to emphasize, that Saint Joseph teaches us to love freely without being manipulative or possessive. The second quality is the generous gift of self. I'll quote the Holy Father's letter again. Joseph found happiness not in mere self-sacrifice, but in self-gift. In him, we never see frustration, but only trust. Every true vocation is born of the gift of oneself, which is the fruit of mature sacrifice. He continues, the priesthood and consecrated life likewise require this kind of maturity. Whatever our vocation, whether to marriage, celibacy, or virginity, our gift of self will not come to fulfillment if it stops at sacrifice. Were that the case, instead of becoming a sign of the beauty and joy of love, the gift of self would risk being an expression of unhappiness, sadness, and frustration. This section took me right back to something Pope St. John Paul II wrote, which was a complete game changer for me in my vocation to consecrated life. In his 1988 letter on the dignity and vocation of women, he wrote about self-gift in the consecrated life. Women, he wrote, called from the very beginning to be loved and to love. In a vocation to virginity, find Christ, first of all, as the Redeemer who loved until the end, through his total gift of self, and they respond to this gift with a sincere gift of their whole lives. This is the evangelical ideal of virginity. This cannot be compared to remaining simply unmarried or single, because virginity is not restricted to a mere no, but contains a profound yes in the spousal order, the gift of self for love in a total and undivided manner. It concerns me to realize that many young people look just on the no's involved in religious life without realizing the profound, joyful, and life-giving yes that is at the heart of our vocation to consecration. As I bring these reflections to a close, I'd like to invite you to share this insight with any young person you know whom you think would make a good consecrated person or priest. The world is in need of people completely dedicated to Christ and his gospel. Our congregation is in real need of young women to join us in the vocation established for us by St. John Jugan. Please share with young people what St. Joseph shows us, that it is possible to find happiness and fulfillment of life, not in mere self-sacrifice, but in self-gift and service. I've enjoyed sharing these reflections on St. Joseph with you, and I hope that you've enjoyed them also. I encourage you to read Pope Francis's letter, Patris Corde, and to share it with others. On behalf of all the little sisters, I'd like to take this opportunity to wish you a very blessed Holy Week and an even more blessed and joy-filled Easter. Stay safe and healthy.
See